Ben Gilbert's family always sensed that there was something significant about their property near Queensland's Bunya Mountains. Property developers certainly had a keen sense of its value too and offered big money to carve it up into 2-hectare hobby farms. But the family chose to forego the windfall profit and instead leave a lasting legacy that's already touching the lives of many in its local community. This is the story about a very special place. But it's been hiding a secret for a long, long time. You see, before anyone knew about it,
there was a little girl and a father who lived there. The little girl was called Jean. And the father was called Ben. And Ben and Jean worked on the place all the time. It was big, with lots and lots of stones in the backyard. And sometimes, Jean would go and play fairy in amongst the stones.
Decades later, the little girl, Jean Gundry, has grown up. Jean and her father, Ben Gilbert, are now sharing the magic of what the Aborigines call Gumingaroo in the foothills of Queensland's Bunya Mountains.
It was after the war. I was about 23 years old and I bought this property next door to my own home property across the hill behind me. And we worked the two properties together, my grandfather's property, my great-grandfather's property and my property.
88-year-old Ben Gilbert has since retired from cattle and dairy farming on the property, but not before realising the significance of these stone formations on the land.
I loved growing up in the country and it was just a very free life. We didn't have many material possessions and so we learnt to play and entertain ourselves, and Dad tells me I used to come home and say I'd been playing in the fairy rings, but no one really took me very seriously.
And we said, well, how nice, dear, that's lovely, you know. We said, well, you know, she got a good imagination. And she was playing in the fairy rings. That's where she discovered them first.
There was a stone in the shape of a ring. And Jean would play in there all the time. In the wind and in the animals. And it said that this place was very special and that we needed to look after it. And so Jean showed Ben the fairy rings and all the other different stones. There were stones of all different shapes, and Ben and Jean had to guess what they were. Can you guess what they are? Anyone? What is it?
It's a snake.
There were more stones of a catfish, a pigeon, an emu. There was even a map of the stars, planets, moon and sun.
The Gilberts say pioneering families in the area had seen Aboriginals coming to the land but thought it was a type of playground. It wasn't until the mid-1950s when a local museum curator came out to collect some rock samples that the Gilbert family found out these formations were no accident. The find attracted keen interest from historians. Back then, there was no GPS, so teams of researchers spent weeks painstakingly plotting every stone on the 5-hectare site and charting the circular formations of what's known as a borer ground.
This was the same importance to the Aborigines as a cathedral in a capital city is to us. It was the religious centre for the entire, well, we think it was the Waka tribe, but it was also their initiation ground where they came to test their children in their fit to be keepers of the tribe when the older people passed away. It was their cultural centre.
A burial ground is a major part in Aboriginal societies. They go from boy to manhood. He'd walk in as a boy and he'd walk in as a man. Then he'd go with the elder, whatever he chose to be, sort of like an apprenticeship. Whether you want to be a crockery maker, a ring maker, or...
This is now Crown land, and Brian Tobane, or Uncle Brian as it's custom to refer to him, was the perfect choice to be made its custodian, with his grandfather's tribe coming from this area. So as custodian, you can give permission?
Yeah, the elders gave me permission, yes, to... OK, they said, OK, we'll show it now and we'll teach a bit of the young boys what it's about, you know. And so not only that, the whites come too, and we say it's your history as well as us, because it's Australia's history.
I was really keen to find out, you know, what you thought about the show.
Oh, yeah.
The importance of this place now being interpreted and embraced by the wider community.
Last year we had Indigenous workshops that went out directly into primary schools, and it was at that time that the teachers said to us that they were absolutely wanting more and more Indigenous culture and content in the school curriculum to be able to share that with their students. So that inspired us at USQ to start working with Uncle Brian and the other custodians at Gamunjuru to be able to create a new play based on local history and a very significant Aboriginal site.
The result, a play, Spirits in Bare Feet. Through theatre, the meaning of Aboriginal totems or animal imagery used at the Bora site comes alive, as well as the role the farmers had in preserving the cultural heritage. Indigenous musician Michael Brown composed original music and performed live on didgeridoo for the play.
With Olivia's voice, sang, she had bombed his head.
His day job is as an advisor to the Queensland Government's Department of Communities, Sport and Recreation. He uses music as a hook to try to help children and young adults embrace their cultural heritage.
This is very, very close to my heart, being able to perform and create musical scores in regards to something as significant and as sacred as this site, something which really is down my alley, which blows my hair back in regards to the cultural maintenance and recovery for kids, because I believe that we need to know where we come from to be able to determine where we're going.
Who disturbs my sleep?
The benefits of reconciliation mutual. I like the way you say Uncle Brian. There's just such warmth there. So what's the relationship like now with the custodians and USQ?
He's just such a beautiful man, and so caring and generous and yet so quiet. He just has this confidence within him. And I guess what we've all been so pleased about is that he's openly welcomed us to his place. He's openly showed us around, told us the stories, given us advice, and been so generous with his time.
The relationship between Uncle Brian and Ben Gilbert built on mutual respect. Despite the property developers having grand ideas to carve the paddocks up into 5-acre lots, when it came time for Ben Gilbert to retire, he had other ideas. Instead, he's donated it back to the state of Queensland. And tell me about when you decided to hand the land over to the custodians.
My main concern was that if I left this place and somebody else could just as easily put those stones in a heap and use the ground for something else, and I did not want that to happen because I realised what it was and how important it was.
What did you have to do?
I had to make various declarations and go to a lot of trouble to arguments to get the state to take it back. But eventually convinced them that it was a priceless asset to the state as well as to the people concerned and also to my family, that it be kept inviolate.
And what does it mean to you that the farming family have handed this land back?
We owe them a lot of respect for doing what they done. They protected that, and we owe them a lot now because they preserved it for us.
In safe hands.